So my key for my Honda finally gave up the ghost and is just unusable at this point. This key part is usually mounted in the plastic body, but it's only mounted in plastic. So once that plastic breaks, it's done. It's really no longer usable. You can try gluing it, but really it's just a band-aid fix. And the proper way to do it is to get a new shell and swap the guts over. So that's what I did. I got this new shell off eBay. It was about $10 or $11. This part is not cut when you get it, so you're gonna have to find a locksmith that can cut a Sidewinder key. If you need to go to Ace Hardware as a last resort, they do cut them for $40, which is kind of steep, but it is on the table. I found a locksmith in my area that cuts these keys for $10 each for me, and it's a pretty great deal. So I'm going to show you what you need to do to swap the guts over to one of these new shells so you can have a proper working key. So, of course, I already swapped the guts over with the exception of the keyless entry. Mine is actually like glued into the case, so I can't swap it. But what you do is, normally you would undo that screw there, and that would free the halves up. But of course, because this is broken, these halves just pull apart. Like I said, this piece should not be glued to the body, but mine is. Normally it would come out in one unit, this keyless entry part. But when you open it up, you would take out the keyless entry, and there's a immobilizer chip that sits in this slot right here. And that is what tells your car that the key is actually present and to start the car, and that it's not being like picked or something. So I'll set that aside. To open up your new shell, there's a Phillips tip or Phillips screw right there. Just undo that Phillips screw. There we go. Phillips screw. And take a flat tip screwdriver and find a gap that you can fit it in and just kind of work your way around the body, and it'll come apart just like that. So this back half does not have anything in it. This front half, like I said, will have the keyless entry and the immobilizer chip, and now this little piece sits in there to kind of clip in there to hold the chip in place so it doesn't rattle around. But this is what your keyless entry should look like as you take it out. Oops. So it should all be one unit. You can crack this open by pulling back this tab, and the halves should separate if you need to replace the battery. But this is how it should come out of the key if it's not glued in place like mine was. So the two pieces you need to take are the keyless entry and that immobilizer chip. Let me see if I can pull this out on mine. Hang on. Mine's being kind of stubborn. Alright, there we go. That's all it is. It just looks like, my hand's kind of sweaty. That's all it is. It just looks like this little black piece of plastic, but that's actually an RFID chip in there, and that tells the car that the proper key is in place. Focus. So these two little bits here, that's what you need to pull out of your old remote. And like I said, get this cut, put the pieces back in. My eBay housing didn't actually have the clips for this piece to securely clip in, but what I do is I just kind of lay it in there, and that kind of takes up the loose space so the immobilizer chip doesn't rattle around. And then the two halves just kind of snap together. Shake it, make sure that chip isn't loose. Phillips screw back in there. And that's it. Because I had to snag an aftermarket keyless entry little transponder thing, I am going to have to reprogram it with my car, and I can make a video on that down the road. But as far as usability goes, this key is perfectly usable now. This will work in the ignition switch or ignition cylinder, and the transponder chip that we put in will work for the immobilizer. So I can use this to go drive my car right now if I needed to. But yeah, like I said, I'm gonna make a video on how to program the keyless entry sometime soon. But that's it for now. If you like this video, give it a like, share this to your friends, sub to the channel if you haven't, and as always, thanks for watching.